families of 4 University of Idaho students murdered more than 3 years ago are suing WSU, claiming the university knew about concerning and predatory behavior by Brian Kohberger, but failed to act.
Our priority and main concern is that there is a thorough and complete investigation.
U.S. Border Patrol agents shot 2 people in Portland today during what they described as an attempted traffic stop. What we know about what happened, new tonight.
Snow is out, but we're waking up to some patchy morning fog and icy roads across the region. We are tracking several big stories tonight. Just this afternoon, we learned the families of the Moscow murder victims are now suing WSU. Plus, the FBI investigating tonight after 2 people were shot and injured by Customs and Border Patrol agents in Portland this afternoon. Good evening and thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 Night Report. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Tonight, the families of the University of Idaho murder victims are suing Washington State University, saying the university failed to act despite knowing about concerning and predatory behavior by Brian Kohberger. The now convicted killer was a graduate student and employee of WSU at the time. KREM 2's Connor McAvoy read through that lawsuit tonight. He joins us live in the newsroom to break it down for us. Connor?
Foreseeable and predictable. That's what the lawsuit argues was the case in the 4 University of Idaho murders back in 2022. Parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, and Madison Mogan argue WSU failed to protect the community and ignored numerous complaints about the convicted killer Brian Kohberger leading up to the murders. It's been more than 3 years since Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle were murdered in an off-campus apartment near the University of Idaho. Now, the students' families filed a lawsuit against Washington State University months after Brian Kohberger pled guilty to the 4 murders in July of 2025. According to court documents, law enforcement agencies began releasing files from their investigations into the murders after Kohberger's guilty plea and sentencing to 4 consecutive life terms. Those investigations, according to court docs, reveal as a criminology graduate student and employee at WSU, Kohberger had several altercations with other graduate students that made them feel unsafe months before the 2022 murders. They also reveal on several occasions, WSU professors and university police escorted several female graduate students home, believing Kohberger was stalking them. Documents show WSU professors at one point were discussing a, quote, need to do an intervention with Kohberger, end quote, because of his treatment of female students. The WSU Office of Compliance and Civil Rights had at least 13 formal complaints relating to Kohberger, but the person in charge of acting on them admitted she neither met nor spoke with Kohberger, according to court docs. The victims' families are asking for damages for their pain and suffering. Now, we reached out to the family's attorney named in this suit, as well as WSU for comment. We haven't heard back from either at this time. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
All right, Connor, thank you very much. Our other top story tonight, authorities say federal immigration agents shot and wounded 2 people in Portland, Oregon today. The FBI's Portland office says it's investigating the incident involving Customs and Border Patrol agents in which 2 individuals were wounded. That shooting comes just 1 day after an ICE officer shot and killed a driver in Minnesota. CBS News correspondent Gwen Baumgartner reports from Los Angeles.
Authorities say federal agents shot and wounded 2 people in Portland, Oregon on Thursday. When the shooting happened, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security says U.S. Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop involving suspected Venezuelan members of the Tren de Aragua gang. In a posting on X, the agency says when agents identified themselves, the driver attempted to run over the officers. It said an agent fired a defensive shot as the driver and passenger tried to flee the scene.
Our priority and main concern is that there is a thorough and complete investigation, that all facts that can be learned are obtained, and that we can get as much information as possible.
This is a federal investigation. It's being led by the FBI. We have been in touch with them. We are in regular contact.
Portland Mayor Keith Wilson held a press conference Thursday evening.
Just 1 day after the horrific violence in Minnesota, our community here in Portland was witness to a moment of fear, confusion, and heartbreak. Earlier this afternoon, 2 people were shot and injured by federal agents in the Hazelwood neighborhood. Violence in our community is devastating. These are not statistics. These are human beings.
A Portland City Council session abruptly recessed after members were informed of the shooting. Gwen Baumgartner, CBS News.
All right, let's take a quick pause from the headlines and talk weather on this Thursday evening. Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo live in the Outdoor Weather Center with more on what we can expect tomorrow and for the weekend. Jeremy?
Mark, I think it's a bit of morning fog. That's going to be our big contender. 27 degrees feels like 16, and with wind still blowing a little bit, we're stirring the atmosphere. But as wind calms down overnight, expect temperatures to get even colder, and we're already colder than that. We are going to be very, very chilly tomorrow morning, likely one of the coldest we have seen in a while. And as temperatures fall, there's pretty good model indication that our visibility drops. Kind of the usual suspects. Downtown, 195, Airway Heights, Ritzville at times, Deer Park at times, Coeur d'Alene. You know how this pattern goes. Once we get through that, snow develops up in the mountain, mainly tomorrow afternoon, quick-lived, moves out. Then our next little system moves in. By Sunday, it brings a chance of some moisture, but this could possibly just wind up a little bit farther north and we wind up dry out of it. It's an interesting storm as it moves in. What I want you to focus on is tomorrow. Morning fog and lingering ice from what we saw today. A high back above freezing means we're going to melt some of it before it freezes again tomorrow night. We're near 40 this weekend, and that should do a good job of melting a lot of the snow that's still on the ground.
It sounds good, Jeremy. Thank you very much. We'll check back in with you later in the show tonight. Now it's time for our Night Beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. This evening, the U.S. House passed a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which recently ended under the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. 17 House Republicans joined all House Democrats in voting yes, while 196 House Republicans opposed. This vote comes after House Democrats secured the needed 218 signatures back in December to force floor action on extending the expiring tax cuts. The bill now heads to the Senate, where it is unlikely to pass, though lawmakers are working on a bipartisan deal to address the ACA subsidies. And the U.S. Senate today advanced a measure that would block President Trump from taking further military action in Venezuela. 5 Republicans joined Democrats in support of the bill. President Trump slammed the move and said the Republicans who voted for it, quote, should never be elected to office again, unquote. Republican support of the legislation is a rare rebuke of the president's foreign policy, and he has promised to veto the bill if it makes it to his desk. The human remains found in Colfax last month now identified tonight. The Colfax Police Department has confirmed the remains belong to Michael Sean Garcia, a Colfax man who's been missing since July of 2016. Due to the advanced decomposition of the remains and the time that has elapsed, Whitman County Coroner's Office says the cause and manner of death were unable to be determined. Colfax police, meantime, say the investigation will continue until all leads are exhausted and ask that anyone with any information is urged to contact investigators with that number right there at the bottom of your screen. Well, police are looking for more victims of a man who they say dated women in Oregon and Washington and then molested their children. 39-year-old Antonio Arredondo pleaded guilty to first-degree rape, first-degree sodomy, and first-degree sex abuse. Prosecutors said Arredondo developed a pattern of abuse beginning in 2009 with a child molestation conviction. Prosecutors say after entering into relationships with the mothers, Arredondo would sexually abuse the children and at times become violent and sexually assault the mothers as well. Anyone with information related to Arredondo is asked to call their local law enforcement agency. He is scheduled to be sentenced to 40 years behind bars coming up on March 16th. And that'll do it for your Night Beat. For more information on any of these stories, just head to our website. That's KREM.com. All right, don't go to bed yet. Last night's snow squall brought in several inches of snow to Spokane last night. However, an all-city plow was not called. Why that call wasn't made, coming up. But first, offenders from juvenile detention facilities in Washington might be moving to adult prisons much earlier than expected. The reason why in just 90 seconds.